Christopher Ari of Notarius. Today I'm going to be going over the Sarina Test Rig. I will touch base on setting it up in iSeries, but I will initially set this up for a standard series board with internal external power, so that way we go through everything that you can do with this board. The Sarina Test Rig is here. When you initially start setting it up, it is important to keep in mind that you will need all the components that you need for setting it up. For an iSeries, you'll need an on and off switch, you'll need a breaker, you'll need a voltage regulator, you'll need your digital voltmeter that you're using at the time, you'll need an external power supply, your board, so on and so forth. For a standard series, you'll need your diode, your breaker, you'll need two switches, you'll need your voltage regulator, your pair button, your digital voltmeter, your board, your battery, and your external power supply. So this looks like it is a lot, but these cables are actually very long, so that kind of leads to this kind of intimidation. To start, for an internal-external, all you do is take your switch, plug your switch in to your positive and negative on both sides of the switch. And then when you toggle this, so if you plug in your power supply, when you toggle this, it's going to transfer power to the rest of the circuit. Now I'm going to set it up for the more complicated standard series. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to kind of move all these cables out to the side, and we're going to expose these two alligator clamps here. This is for your diode. You want to install your diode like you would install it to your board, to your system. Your power positive is coming from the red end. Your power negative comes from the black. It goes to the black. Or your power in from red, power out to black. You'll then take your first double pull, double throw. This one will represent my internal external, and we're going to attach these 6 cables here. They all attach straight to the connection above it, so it should be fairly simple. So as you can see, I have this side, I have my ground, my positive, my ground. This ground goes to my battery. This one comes to my internal external. Over here, I have my positive, and my positive. This one goes to the battery. This one comes over here to my internal external. So that completes setting up that switch. I'm now, once again, going to draw out all of these cables here. I'm going to set it up again, like so. Now you'll notice that once again you have your grounds on one side and your positive on the other side. You'll probably notice that this is actually inverted, so it goes positive, ground, ground, positive switch wise. That's fine. It's not how you'll hook it up inside your actual system, but it does achieve the purpose that you're trying to do, and that's to test your double pole, double throw switches. The next thing you're going to want to do is remove these tabs from your battery so you can expose its contacts. And you'll take your red cable and attach that to the positive contact, like so. And you'll take your black cable and attach it to the black contact, like so. I'm now just going to set this down to the side so I can stack more parts on this. In order to send power past your digital voltmeter, you will need to have your breaker installed. But right now, I don't want to send power past that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install my digital voltmeter. There's a set of alligator clamps right here. The red on your digital voltmeter goes to the red here. The black on your digital voltmeter goes to the ground. Now, I'm going to flip this switch, and you can see I'm getting 12.8 volts out. So I'm now going to flip that off. I'm going to flip this on, and I'm going to flip my switch again, and you can see I'm getting nothing. Now to install your external power supply, take your barrel plug and plug it into the female barrel plug here, like so. Now you should be able to flip this on, and I'm getting 11.5 volts. So that proves that everything up to my digital voltmeter now works. The next thing I'm going to want to do is remove my bypass for my voltage regulator and install my voltage regulator. So notice on your voltage regulator, V in is actually closer together than your V out. Now when you flip this over, these pins line up. So your V in is nice and close on this side, and your V out is nice and spread apart on the other side. So we're going to simply take my V in positive and alligator clamp it to the positive input here. Same with my V in negative. I will then repeat this over on the other side with my V in, my V out positive and my V out negative. That's now clamped into position. It's good to go. I'm now going to take my breaker and install my breaker. Notice down here you have load, you have line. You're going to want to attach your line to this red cable here and your load to this green cable here. Here's where things do get a little more complicated. Your power bus, the way this works is your digital voltmeter or your voltage regulator is actually powering all of these systems over here. These are all the systems that will power on a TX and an RX board. So if you're testing just a TX system, you're fine to keep the digital voltage regulator in place. If you're testing just the TX system, you're fine to keep this in place. If you're testing both, you want to bypass your voltage regulator or you risk burning it out. And to do that, all you'll do is actually take these clamps and clamp them together, and that'll send a constant current at whatever level it needs to be at. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my monitor connection and I'm just going to plug it straight into a monitor. So this connects, twists down, locks into position. I have this board power supply here. This will just plug into my board like so. Nice and secure. Then I have my TX side. So my TX side is on the right hand side of the board, and I have an RX side which is on the left hand side of the board. Take your video positive marked with the yellow alligator clamp and attach it to your video positive, in this case the yellow wire, to the board. Take your video ground and connect it to your video ground on the board. This is marked video ground as a white cable to a black cable on the board. Now my pair button is actually quite simple. You have these 4 leads here. Your positive goes to the positive connection here for your LED. Your ground goes to the ground connection here for your LED. And then these other 2 green cables connect to either side of your pair button. And now your board is attached along with your monitor. Remember, while you're testing this, you want to attach at least a 3 dBi antenna to the system. So we're going to do that now. All right, that's been attached. Now, we're going to ignore these parts here because they're not necessary for this test. We're going to move this joystick to the side. Once again, it's not necessary for this test. We're not doing any of the RX systems, so we can actually ignore this connection here too. And we're going to focus in on this connection here. This is for our camera. You'll see that our camera has its Deutsch connections already attached to it. These connections, however, can attach to your boards, or you can use a testing harness that's already been made for your HC180s and 190s. Your video positive, here marked with a yellow wire, will attach to your video positive on your camera, here marked with a white. Then your power positive will attach to your power positive, red to red. Your power negative will attach to your power negative, black to black. And then your video negative will attach to your video negative, white to silver. Do not get your grounds and video positive mixed up. You're just not going to make it work. It won't work. You might be able to get away with not attaching one of the video ground if you're concerned about it. Then over here on this side, you have your joystick control. The joystick plugs straight in. You have your additional TX harness, and it plugs in just like you plugged in the TX board. And then you have your RX cables for video, and that one just also alligator clamps to that. The last thing you want to attach is your pair button. We have these connections down over here, and we're going to attach my positive to the positive position on this. One of my blue wires goes to C, the other one goes to NC, or NO. Yeah, NO. And then my ground comes to my ground. Now, I believe we're currently working on my external power. So let's go ahead and flip this switch over and then flip this system on. We're looking at 11.3 volts. You can see my TX board here has a red light, which signifies that it is now on. If I push and hold my pair button, it is now trying to pair. which means that this is a successful test. The next thing I'm going to go over real quick is just the monitor controls. So here's our monitor. You can see it's currently getting power because of the orange light. We're going to click AV. It's going to go to video 2, which is going to give us a video feed. Video 2 comes from our TX side. So whenever you're hooking up this system, remember that your video 2 is going to show you everything hooked up over here and the camera. So everything that this board's receiving is what video 2 is receiving. We do not have an RX board attached, but if it was, by going to video 1, you're going to be getting that video. I will shoot another video on a successful test for all of these components on a later date. However, this concludes the current video for how to hook up and utilize the Sarina Test Rig.